So what's the big news on the C8? Well, the C8, or the 8th generation, has got something really different about it. And the big difference is that where the engine is. For the first 7 generations of the Corvette since 1953 up until 2019, the Corvette had the engine at the front. And in the last few iterations, that Corvette engine actually was behind the front axle, so is actually considered a mid-front engine vehicle. Well, this is a mid-engine car now, but it's mid-engine to the rear, so the engine's behind me. You can tell by the glass there. Obviously a completely different car. Why did they go to rear engine? Well, they pretty much took a front engine car and made it about as fast as it could possibly go. And as a lot of people may know, some of the fastest race cars don't have the engine at the front, they have the engine at the back. And when you have the engine at the back or placed in the middle of the car, you get a much more agile, much more predictable vehicle overall. And right away, whether it's the pitch and the roll, and particularly something that my Corvette, the C7, is a bit prone to, something called yaw. When a car yaws, it's sort of it sounds nautical because it feels a bit nautical. The car kind of tends to list and tilt up and on each corner. My C7 does that. My C7 is a Stingray. It's a grand touring car. It's never really meant to go on a racetrack. It's very comfortable, very tractable. It's got lots of power, but it's not like sort of, I'll say, 911 power, where you can use 100% of it mid-corner accelerating. That's not going to happen in my car. You'll die. This car is a little bit different though. Now that we have the engine placed in the middle of the vehicle, we also have the ability to make this car extremely agile. And it's noticeably agile. It's noticeably more agile than my Corvette. My Corvette certainly dips and dives far more than this thing. This thing is completely different. And I can see why C8 Toronto loves it so much and really doesn't want to stop driving it, because I really don't want to give this car back, actually. It's really that nice. And some of your average Corvette buyers, they might not like some of the notes on this car. There's no manual transmission available. Not that you'd want a manual transmission with this engine. I think it'd be far more usable with a double clutch gearbox like we have in this vehicle. Some other things they might not like, they might just not like the fact of the shape of the car. Once a car becomes mid-engine, the shape looks different. That's why exotic cars all have that flat, very sort of wide wedge shape. They tend to always be named the same thing. People will look at something and go, is that a Ferrari or a Lamborghini? And it's like, just because it has that wedge shape, no, it's an Acura NSX, or it's a, well, the Corvette. The new Corvette, I hear a lot of people saying it looks a lot like a Ferrari. As someone in the car business, I don't think it looks anything like a Ferrari, especially if you're used to the new Ferrari sort of look and sort of style. I don't think this looks anything like that. The one thing I will say though, and the only thing I could knock this car for in overall style and design, is how the wheels fit on the body, or fit against the body of the new cars. All the new wheel sets that I've seen on the Corvette, I've generally seen replaced by the owner. And to actually see the Corvette with its, we'll say, regular or standard wheel and tire setup, the one thing I am surprised at, because so much else on this car is quite perfect and quite extremely well done, I'll notice that the offset on the wheels of the standard wheel set on the car is just a little bit sunken in, and you want those wheels and tires to be right at the edge, the visible edge of the body line of the vehicle. And I would say the new Corvette has some smaller wheels at the rear on the standard models, and they're so small, obviously they're leaving room for the customer to buy a larger set, which we have here on this car. We have 20 and 21 inch wheels. Now, interestingly enough, with this car, the one downer, and I'll say this because the red convertible that I can show you some footage of right now that's in the showroom, is the one minor difference, and it's easy to tell a Targa version Corvette to a hardtop convertible Corvette by the rear glass. The rear glass in the convertible is flat, as you can see in this picture from inside the showroom. This is a beautiful red model that a lucky customer is taking home. And you can see that rear glass has that angle to it, whereas on the C8 Corvette that I'm sitting in right now, this Targa model has that sweeping glass that goes around just right over the engine. So you have that beautiful sort of like see-through view of the engine, which is amazing, because if you're not going to look at the engine, you might as well listen to it. And when you want to listen to it a little bit more, you got this great little button on the steering wheel for Z mode. When you push it into Z mode, it automatically flips the dash, and now all of a sudden, the car wants to get up and go, and it even gears down a little bit faster. I have to say, I haven't touched the paddle shifters yet on this vehicle. It shifts very, very quickly, very well, and it takes fantastic guesses as to when you want to actually do the shifting, which is always great, because that means we got some great programming in the vehicle. What an absolutely wonderful car to drive in and spend some time in. It's such a great environment. I know a lot of people complained about this square-shaped steering wheel. I don't really see any issue. It's something to get used to, but I also have a flat bottom on my C7, so I don't really notice it very much at all. I've come across a lot of fancy steering wheels lately that are quite noisy. They kind of squeak and sort of they make funny sounds. This doesn't do that. This car doesn't make a squeak or a rattle that I can notice at all, actually, which is quite nice. I wouldn't expect it on a performance car with this level of we'll say attention to detail and funness. Usually, especially something this new, you're bound to have sort of like teething issues, but man, this thing's just incredible. Brakes are insane. My God, it's so smooth. That V8, 6.2 liters. It's a push rod, which is awesome. And it's naturally aspirated, which is also another thing that I think is pretty awesome. Oh boy, with that sport exhaust. And no, the Z button wasn't pressed, so could do that again with it.